AKA Padders, what is happening? I am Peter A. DeLuca, your pop culture, focusing a little bit on movies where we're on a big movie run, but we focus on pop culture, and we are here to discuss 1984's low budget masterpiece, sci fi, time traveling thriller, The Terminator. Let's get through that intro and jump to it. Last night I saw Robert Pattinson, William Dafoe in Lighthouse, and was immediately pairing that movie with A Field in England that we did 2 years ago in the 31 Days of Dread. I recommend that movie, depending on my flow, my output, because my two big stretches coming up is definitely going to be Terminator and then Star Wars. Deep dives. You are involved in the deep dive of Terminator. We're not really dispensing a boatload of like how they made this movie type information. This is again, like the focus of AKAPAD's Audio Audacity podcast, which is what are some of the beats, what are some of the ideas, what are some of the views, the angles, the intent, the feeling that some people are missing with movies that kind of hit the lexicon, that hit the culture, that we take for granted. Like in the intro, The Terminator essentially is a low budget masterpiece that roughly cost, for $1984, it cost about $6 to $7 million, and it made about $80 million. Now, if you take that $80 million and you adjust it for inflation, I think it's roughly $113 million. I could be a little bit off there. That is substantial. If a movie today had that type of ratio, of dollars spent to dollars earned, it would be considered like a flat out masterpiece, most likely an Oscar contender, all of that stuff. Even though the Oscars are a little bit broken right now, I'm not like we should be approaching Oscar season, and there's literally nothing. There's nothing outside of a couple Best Actor nods for Lighthouse, which I do feel like Robert Pattinson and William Dafoe both earned Best Actor nods, and we have Joker. And hello Oscars. But yeah, so Terminator Dark Fate came out last Friday. I couldn't jump on it. I wanted to, but it was right at the tail end of the 31 Days of Dread, and I literally, October, such a grind. I burned myself out, and but at the same time, like when it comes to Terminator, I hold the franchise to a different standard than other franchises, and it's not a high standard, because everyone focuses on Terminator and Terminator 2, and those two movies are a block, and it's over. Our ending for Terminator 2. We'll talk about this at episode 253. Where we do the special edition of Terminator 2 Judgment Day. The only edition you really should be familiar with and you should watch. With the extended and added scenes. And, the story ends. Okay, this is a lot of what people miss when it comes to discussing Terminator. It's not about a continuation, because we are dealing with time travel. We're dealing with alternate threads. We're dealing with a different entity every time we go back in time. It's going to be different. Now, if we go through the chronology of the movies post Terminator 2 Judgment Day, and we go into T3, and we go into Salvation, and we go into Genesis, and we go into Dark Fate, it's going to be different, and it should be different, and it should be a different scenario every single time, not a different plot, even though we have different plots. Terminator nailed it when it came out. I remember when this movie came out. I was a little kid. My father and God rest his soul, my cousin Dwight, who meant a lot to me. even through his, geez, I'm getting a little emotional. Through his death. He and my father went to go see this movie, and they come home, and they're literally out of their minds. They were blown away. They were, it's almost like transformed by watching this movie. They didn't understand what they saw. It's the closest memory, it's the closest reaction I have to someone, other than watching The Matrix with a few people. Because I saw Matrix maybe 7 or 8 times in the theater, because I was completely obsessed with that movie. If you would like me to do a Matrix block, let me know in the comments, let me know in the reviews, let me know on Twitter at AKAPAD. And, like them coming home and seeing this reaction, feeling it too with Terminator, it's the closest thing I have to maybe what people felt when they first saw The Exorcist, when they first saw King Kong, yes, the 1932 King Kong, when they first saw Star Wars. That's right, I call it Star Wars, it's not Star Wars A New Hope. We'll get into that next month, or later this month. So, my upcoming block here, it's going to be Terminator 2 Judgment Day. It's going to be Terminator 3, T3 Rise of the Machines, and then we're going to do a little, it's going to be the Sarah Connor Chronicles, at least the first season of that show. And then we're going to do Terminator Salvation, Terminator Genesis, and next week, because I already scheduled it with one of my boys, it's going to be Terminator Dark Fate. Terminator Dark Fate essentially has already bombed. It's already a failure. It is at a lower box office rate than even its predecessor, 2015, right? Terminator Genesis. Now, here's the crazy thing. When it comes to the Terminator franchise, I pretty much like every single one of these movies. These, I really, I've been animated about this. I really like Genesis. Genesis, for a lot of the same reasons that I will sit down and watch Last Jedi, and I know that's so unpopular right now, because it has balls. It really tries something. It really wants what it's working to work for you. Like, it wants that story to be what it intends to be. But the Terminator Genesis intent and execution is so much more better. It's more exact. It's more calculated. It's like, I would say maybe as big, but Last Jedi doesn't stick it. It just, there's too much happening. There's too much you're not interested in during the course of Last Jedi. Terminator Genesis, when it moves, I dig it. I'm telling you, I dig it a lot. And a lot of that too is I love the thread, the idea that Terminator T3 Rise of the Machine started, which was almost like daytime action. Like, it made that a thing. Up until then, it was like action was mostly nighttime and at dark and inside factories. Even though we do have one really good daytime scene in T2 Judgment Day, it's still a night action-driven movie. And, we do have, even with the highway scene in Dark Fate, it is during the day. I think the franchise is a little bit too reliant on that. I believe that Terminator, especially if you're trying to reboot Terminator, it should be during nighttime. It should be dark. It should be threatening. We want this guy. We want the hunter hidden in darkness. We don't want him out in broad daylight where we can all see him. It just doesn't work. But modern special effects, digital photography, it goes on and on, what they can do on a technological sense, on a Skynet level. Yeah, it's a lot, it's a lot that they can make daytime special effects work. And at one time, you went and you did your stuff, and you did your stunts, and you did your explosions, and you did your fire. You did it at night because you could, the filmmakers could hide more. The filmmakers could disguise what the special effects could not do. Perfect, like limitations. So 1984 comes out, and we have this idea. Now, there was a lawsuit with Harlan Ellison. See, James Cameron says that he got the idea for Terminator off of he was working with Roger Corman on this movie called Piranha. I'm pretty sure it was Piranha 2. And they're in like South America, and he gets like food poisoning, he gets sick or something, and wakes up in the haze, has a dream, and draws a picture of the Terminator crawling. I think it was like it was a black charcoal sketch. And then there we go. Like, that was a formation of the movie, and him and I'm pretty sure Gail Anherd, who he could have been dating at the time, got into making the movie. And we have we have a special effects master with James Cameron, and now becoming writer director. He was taking over some of the production for Piranha 2, I believe, at the time. Very little, plenty of in back of the camera credits by this time, but not much directing credits. So this movie comes out, and Harlan Ellison, I'm going straight off of memory here, but he sues and gets a settlement because he's like, look, you guys ripped off one of my stories. It turned out there was similarities. None of that takes away from the impact of Terminator. In a lot of the ways, Terminator has kind of won that war because it stayed in the culture for so long. Now, this movie is full of awesome tricks. It's full of awesome workarounds while they were making the movie. We all know some of the mythology around this movie. James Cameron wanted O.J. Simpson. James Cameron wanted Schwarzenegger for Reese. Schwarzenegger convinced Cameron to give him the Terminator. Schwarzenegger didn't want to be the Terminator. His agent had to even convince him because Schwarzenegger didn't want to be portrayed as a villain. And we get magic. We get something special. We get a story that's just very clean. Sarah Connor giving birth to the resistance future, to the victory of mankind versus these machines. We have the machines as a last resort sending Schwarzenegger the T-800 back in time to kill Sarah Connor. We're dealing with the 80s, so internet, Wi-Fi, Bluetooth. It's not imagined yet. It's not reality. The Terminator needs a phone book, okay? And then, he's killing everyone through Sarah Connor, like just going right through the phone book, killing all the Sarah Connors, hoping to find, Linda Hamilton. So, along the way, Kyle Reese, he is a soldier from the future sent to protect Sarah Connor. He later becomes the father of John Connor. Now, we have to consider that the possible future that John Connor sent Kyle Reese back to protect his mother from, that the father may not have been Kyle Reese. We could be dealing with a development of a new thread. Now, I think the franchise makes this very clear, because every single iteration of the future we get is slightly different, and it's adjusted. And then in the later movies, deal with futures where John Connor actually dies, gets murdered. So, it's through war, so maybe it's not strictly murder if it's war. But yeah, so we have this complete story where they destroy the Terminator and save the future and save one another, and Kyle Reese dies, and here we go. We end the movie with Sarah Connor pregnant with Kyle Reese's from the future son. And there we go. Like, we drive off into the horizon with I think it's just like a coming storm too. Now, a couple years later, they squirt out this sequel. And the sequel says, look, there was some stuff left over from the original Terminator that you guys killed, and this is what we developed our supercomputer with, Skynet. And Skynet is the background villain for Terminator and Terminator 2. And there we go. We're back in the loop, and we have to close the loop. Both of these movies close the loop perfectly and appropriately. What makes Terminator so good? When it comes down to watching one of the two movies, I kind of like watching Terminator because I think of all the Terminator movies, this is the best Terminator. The Schwarzenegger T-800 killing machine is exactly a Terminator. The thing's unstoppable. The police station scene, the nightclub scene, the scene where Terminator shows up to Sarah Connor's apartment and murders her roommate and boyfriend. These are the definition. This is the definition of the mindless killer. The perfect slasher is Terminator T-800. I love it. The music alone for Terminator is top 10. Terminator also has one Brad Fiedel. Okay, Terminator also has one of the best credit sequences, and this is somewhat of a theme through Schwarzenegger's movies during this time. Incredible credit sequences. I'm talking Total Recall. I'm talking Conan the Barbarian. Incredible credit sequences. Gets you into the mood. The score itself, it's banging and clanging and metallic and echoey. It's beyond perfect. Beyond perfect. There is few decisions you could make within this movie to improve it. This is one of the best sci-fi movies ever created, ever imagined, ever executed. Few flaws. It is beyond a must-see. If you've seen it, you have to watch it again. This movie deserves repeatable viewing. When it comes to this level movie and, sci-fi and darkness, I will go back to The Crow. This movie and The Crow work so well together because they're from different eras, using different technology, somewhat the same antagonist, because The Crow is an antagonist in The Crow. He's not a protagonist, he's an antagonist because he's just running around murdering people, which I love. It's just so cool. Because we can pretend people, okay? No. The Terminator, though, this is what it inspired in people. It captured an audience in the highly competitive movie-going era in 1984. Highly competitive year. Okay? It captured the imagination for a reason. Not because it has these outlandish, mind-blowing ideas. It's the actual DNA, the fabric of what's on that film. Same as Star Wars. Star Wars is, new ideas, but none of the new ideas were as good as the execution when it even comes to Star Wars. I view those two as parallel on that level. This was a well-executed, big idea movie, and that's all we need, and that's a little bit of what we need right now, because we have a lot of movies. Going back to the Oscars, we have all this Oscar bait coming out. None of the ideas just seem good. They don't. I'm sorry. Terminator 1984 is always going to be a reminder of what you can do with nothing. Okay? What you can do with zero. And that should never hold you back with anything in life. You can have zero and you can go. Okay? Because you will always find allies. You will always find people to do things with you. You will find people to do things for you. If you're good about it, you will find these people. If you're bad and you're like an a-hole, you'll find nothing and you'll have nothing. But Terminator 1984, everyone, starting the Terminator Super Block, leading into Terminator Dark Fate, because I'm going to give that movie the best shot I can. I'm anticipating that movie. I can't wait to see it next week. Everyone, big Terminator block coming up. I love you. From AKAPAD's Audio Audacity podcast. Thank you for joining me. And until next time, let's rock and roll.